Good morning, everyone. It is time to start the day off with some semi-finals. Silk Road Shaitans and Untitled looking to see who will be the first to get their way into finals. Already went to draft, and the Shaitans do first pick that Wukong for Jason the other. And Untitled probably likely to respond with some of their mage bot lanes. Mel and Brand were taken away, but that does mean Hui is still on the table for Evan the Bank if he and Easy Hister want to take one of those oppressive lanes. And it looks like they're going to start that way off with Easy Hister on his most played with the Karma. Would certainly expect just an early Hui. I don't think Habibi Poppy and Schmiedlock have a way into it. Lux would be very similar flavor for Evan the Bank. Just have a long range, obnoxious lane. Can be flexed to the mid lane for Envy if really needed. Over on the Shaitan's side, probably going to want to figure out something for your bot lane here, as it is going to be Ashe for Habibi Poppy. And we'll see if they want to go Seraphine for Schmied. That has been the typical combo. Schmied has not been much of an enchanter player throughout this DMV. I think it's maybe more likely we see a Thresh here or a Rakan as some of the other fine pairings with the Ashe. Can help in the lane, but nope, it's going to be actually early Galio for Hop Tech. So they have that Wukong Galio combo in the jungle. That can definitely make a lot of plays where if Jason can find flanks to get on top of the Lux Karma, they can full send it and take good fights. But with a more utility focused AD carry and with a utility focused mid laner, that does open up the Doctor to being a solid pick as well for Untitled. Getting that to Dota 2 his beater. Yes, he may have trouble actually finding targets as Ashe slows him, as Galio taunts him, but he is going to be quite difficult to kill when he is ulted up with the dosage. So could be a solid pick here to just make space and be a good frontliner for Untitled. We'll see if the Shaitans want to put any focus onto Envy's mid pool with the fact that they have likely Galio mid. I mean, I guess it could be flexed to support if they really want. I mean, the Shaitans hold a lot of respect for Bread in the early phase by banning the Olaf and first picking the Wukong away from him. So now we're going to see both top laners really get tested here as more focus is put onto Bread and Camper, with the Alawi ban probably setting up the Shaitans for a tank top. If I'm Untitled, I'm not too worried about a tank top just because, you know, it would make the Shaitans a very low damage composition, and then there's some nice picks that can punish that. But it will be Urgot also banned away, so we'll see whether Envy or Bread are going to be the ones to ban, or to blind pick here in the early, or on fourth pick here. Galio's locked in, so Envy can probably just take what he wants here. Jace does have some flexibility. It is a solid play into the Galio and really shows the teeth of this comp to be very, very much about the poke with Lux and Jace locked in. Shaitans do go for the Ashe Seraphine at the end of the day. Can be nice to heal through the poke and be a solid lane as well. Saying we've got the engage from our jungle mid. We'll just make sure everyone's topped off. Very curious to see what Camper wants to take here, considering it could be into a Jace, considering it could be blind. Gragas is going to be the choice. I'm not the biggest Gragas top enjoyer. Does help with the engage. But against some of this long range, I don't think Gragas R has the kind of value you want when it splits up the fight. I do think Shaitans need everyone group to get their wombo off. And Gragas doesn't really put Lux or Jace at too much of a disadvantage if they're casked out of a fight. Untitled gonna have to figure out where they want this Jace to go, and I guess technically it's still up in the air with the Garen pick on 5. We have seen Garen mid courtesy of Cyrax, so it's possible that Envy is taking Garen into Galio. As another AD champion, but I feel like more likely than not, it's going in the hands of Bread, and you pick the Jace into the Galio. As it stands right now, the engage on the side of Untitled is very limited. They are very much about getting to the objective first and laying down their poke with the Jace, with the Lux, and then having the Mundo Garen up on the front to try to prevent the Shaitans from entering as easily. But when the Shaitans do find that entrance, it'll be quite a heroic one. As you know, you got Wukong R, you got Galio R, you got Seraphine R. So if they can get the Jace Lux poke on the back foot and try to erase those targets early, is of course gonna be a good fight. And it's something their comp is definitely capable of. Ash Arrow can be thrown in there as well. The only concern is that as the game wears on, fights can get very drawn out with how low damage the Shaitans are. There's a lot of utility packed into Ashe, Wukong, Galio, Seraphine. There is not a huge way to deal with this Mundo, with the Garen when they're standing in your face over the objective fights. So in those long fights where Ashe is able to buy space, Seraphine's able to buy space and heal people up, the same can be done for Karma shields, for Lux shields, and Mundo's own healing. So I do think a lot of it just comes down to that initial engage and seeing if they can get those carries off the map. Got a lot of eyes on Habibi Poppy for this one, as he's going to have to both avoid poke in these fights and also be able to kite out the Mundo and the Garen in the late stage. Otherwise, I feel like even those frontliners can definitely just carry once the initial combo is down if they're in good enough spots. These bastards put spectator delay. Oh my god. we're on to the Rift for game number 1 here. Time to see who is going to get that first ticket in to the grand finals. Untitled only lost their first game last week to the Grustlers. Otherwise, have not dropped a game, have not dropped a series. All split long. You do have bread is very yummy on the Garen, and of course, as he does on plenty of his champions, is going to elect for that second combat summoner in the Ignite. Camper definitely just playing to survive this kind of lane. Levels up the body slam early so they can always make distance and make sure that he's just able to survive through the lane, soak up CS, soak up gold, and then be a useful tank in the later stages of the game. Also has the phase rush to get some distance between him and the Garen, as Optech taking a rough trade in mid with the level 2 advantage from Envy. Now, Bread takes a tower shot, and Jason is pathing up towards the top side. So it will be a bit of split choices for the junglers, as, I mean, Garen's able to get that wave in. He'll get a ward. He shouldn't be in any real danger. He can even just take a recall, thanks to the new home guards of the season. Looks like the Ashe Seraphine lane going to do the same. No, they need to push one more wave, so they'll stay out. Optech was forced out, expends the TP, comes back with a Dark Seal. And Mundo's actually going to make a detour to the mid lane, as Hoptech, the wave is stuck in a really rough spot. He's going to find the Justice Punch and the taunt. Winds of War Flash, and Hoptech finds a solo kill as Envy was trying to force the gank. And with the flash, Hoptech is safe from any further danger. Envy, as he gets a bit over eager for that kill, and now he's coming back, insta taunted with Jason the other in the area. It's a disaster for Envy, as he's already down 2 kills. Pretty greedy teleport. You know Jason's playing on top crab. You know he's not gonna make a play top with the way that wave is, so. And Galio just sets it up again. So top tech off to a good start, already stacking up that Dark Seal. And this was a matchup a lot of people were looking forward to. Hoptech, champion of the most recent DMV, as Bread gets very aggressive with the spins, doesn't burn the Ignite, so knows he doesn't have the damage. But yeah, Hoptech, reigning champion in the mid lane for DMV Rivals. Envy has performed like the best mid laner in this tournament. He's gotten through guys like Blue Killers, guys like Allura, Hoptech before in Swiss, so Envy has been doing a great job, but this start is definitely not what he was looking for on the Jace, as the Galio base damages do need to be respected. Meanwhile, on the top side, Camper did expend his TP. Brick did not take that early Home Guards recall I expected him to, so he's still on that Doran's Blade. So Camper has a bit of leeway up here for now to levy down this poke and try to force Bread off of the waves. We'll be able to not quite cash in on that first plate. Level 6 hit by Bread, and now he's going to try to play aggressive, but with Phase Rush, it's so difficult. He did burn the Ignite even, but Camper, if he's close to 6, he's going to actually find a Q and force the flash out of Bread. Right now, this Garen counter is not looking all too great. Envy could be in trouble again. He does have his flash, and Dota 2 is around. So both junglers just going to go to their respective bushes and base. Dota 2 able to secure the dragon off of the push of his bot lane, which certainly expected for Lux and Karma. Schmid and Habibi picking a solid 2v2 lane in their own right. So they're able to cushion quite a lot. The early shoes for Habibi, very useful for dodging out on the poke, and also Ash just kind of likes boots first a lot of the times. So should be good up there. They do spot Jason the other, and there was no level 6 on Habibi. I don't think they were ever really in much danger. And with the spot of the enemy jungler, it will be... What is the Q? What the hell? Bread is going for the proxy. I love League Client. All the buttons always work as they're intended to. So Bread with that proxy is going to be able to get his TM out and then home guards back out. Even after some of the early shenanigans are on mid, we've now settled. Not too much action, really. The flashless Galio isn't that easy to punish, so both junglers just clearing through. Mundo more than happy to just kind of bide his time through the early game. And Wukong would like his early Triforce, so they're going to look for the early play onto Bread, who is, in fact, missing his flash. So Jason able to find that kill. Now Camper, there's going to be Habibi, has to get away with both his sums from the final spark. Easy Hister did flash to try to get that one, but see some value from Habibi taking the cleanse, even if there's just really one ability that's going to do something about it, as Dota 2 trying to maybe find an angle or at least force them off the wave, but I mean, his bot lane is missing their spells. Binding's going to hit, so it's good damage onto Schmiedlock, but he'll double surround sound whenever he can for a bit of healing. Mundo is back as a big Mantra Q hits onto Habibi. Schmid, double E. I really don't like that decision because now there's no healing against Dota 2. They have the summoner heal, but he's just going to walk up onto a summonerless Habibi and find himself the kill. Dota 2 standing on business in the bot lane. Does mean Grubs go to Jason the other, but really don't mind that. Grub's certainly not powerful, especially when there's no real good side laner on the side of the Shaitans, though. Of course, you do deny it from a team with Jason Garen as Envy. Getting aggressive and okay, getting quite nice trade-off. Habibi and Schmiedlock did both burn their ultis, trying to survive against the Mundo, but the passive, of course, very useful for Dota 2's beta to just continue the chase. Does mean Schmiedlock and Habibi don't really have the threat they would maybe like to in this lane, with Wukong and Galio perhaps looking down to where Easy Hister has no flash. As Envy might be getting baited, but he thinks better of it this time. He has the vision of the Wukong. And with 14 seconds until Dragon, Does look like River Control right now goes to the Shaitans. Hawkshot helping them spot out Dota 2 as well. But, I mean, the Mundo is quite strong with his Heartsteel and with the level advantage. No Triforce on Wukong. Malignant's completed on Lux. I think Shaitans would be correct to wait this one out. But Envy is going to get visited by the enemy jungler, and Hop Tech finds himself a second kill on the Prince of Mid Lane. But I do think the Dragon now might be a bit of a contention. Habibi has the ult, Schmiedlock does not. Dota 2 finds a briefcase and wants to try to force this bot lane away, but they're down a man. Schmiedlock, we can't be double queuing. We need double W's here. As he's now going to get caught, forced to flash away, and Dota 2 just walks up and Smite steals it. They both had the same Smite, but now Encore is going to hit onto the Mundo. He's going to try to crank the dosage, and Jason the Air is getting very, very low. Needs some help from the Galio ulti, and the Mundo is just healing through it all. The Justice Punch isn't enough, and now Hoptech needs to flash defensively. Envy's here, and even though he misses the Shock Blast, he will get some revenge. Even with Envy being the one whose mistake seemed to cost Untitled, he's the one to end the play. You can just see that Dota 2 just strutting up, getting the Dragon steal, and then just being able to walk out. Great stuff from Dota 2, who has been playing quite a lot this week. Had the quarterfinals game with Untitled, of course, and subbed in for the Soy Kittle Predator Slayers as well for one game. And even though that game didn't go well, he is showing that he's still very much a respected jungler here. Has built up a CS lead on the Mundo and has good discipline on his W and on his R for that fight to get the most out of them and allowing him to live. And that's maybe one of the issues we're going to see for the side of the Shaitans. You know, Wukong didn't have the Triforce for that fight. He's not doing much damage, even in the later stages to this Wukong. And Ashe, Seraphine, yeah, they can slow him up, but it is going to be a while before they can get through him. Utility mid laner, so Mundo is just able to live through it all. As aggression in the bot lane, as the summoner heal can't do enough, as a beautiful lineup on the light binding means it's a double kill for Evan and Hister. Some odd positioning there. I feel like Habibi and Schmid were definitely getting a bit too big for their britches. They don't have item completions against Evan and Easy Hister, so didn't pay the needed respect. But now Easy Hister gonna get a rest on by Jason, but with his flash, Jason's not gonna full commit. He doesn't have Galio down here able to join, it looks like, so he's just gonna clear away the ward. It's okay. Cheeky proto belt to dodge the empowered shock blast. We do see it's also just not full tank Gragas in the top lane. It is going to be a proto belt to try to get in. And now Envy is lurking around in places he shouldn't be. That's going to be Hoptech and Jason the other teaming up for another kill on the Jace. And things are just starting to spiral for Envy here. Seems like they have a very good read on him. And Jason the other doing a nice job playing around vision to always pick him off. Because this is certainly not the place you want the Jace to be. It has not been the place that For You to Envy has found himself on all too much. With being down, honestly, not that much gold because he was able to collect the shutdown. But he's died 4 times. He's not ahead of the curve of the game, kind of like how the Jace would like to be. To be fair, you know, a fed Galio isn't really much more of an issue than a regular Galio. You know, Galio with gold, like, yeah, his combo will do 50 more damage, right? He mostly relies on his base. He's tankiness is see more scrapping up topside, but yeah, at least there isn't really an item disadvantage for Envy yet. He's still going to be relevant if his poke hits the right targets. You can see, like, because of that shutdown, because of that bot lane tower going to Evan and Hister, it's now a 2K gold lead for the side of Untitled. A lot of that lead, of course, on Evan the Bank on the Lux. So if this Ash Arrow can maybe help them find some presence onto the bot lane, fully charged taunt onto Easy Hister, he's going to flash out the side of the wall, and there will be no flash to chase from the Shaitans. But that is a Summoner burned 3 seconds before Dragon, but that is Ash Arrow down as well as they look to Jossa for position. Dota 2 holding the line brush. And Camper trying to recall to maybe get his teleport down there, but it's canceled. As I mean, Gragas is low on mana. He cannot join this right away. Needs to figure out a way to get this wave. He'll use the Proto Belt. Bread's just going to run through. He has the Unleashed TP to join at a moment's notice. The binding hits only on 2 Hop Tech. And you can see the poke. Good discipline. And here comes the engage, but Evan the Bank flashing away, finds the final spark, and now Envy's in on the back line. It was a nice encore across onto 2, but Hoptech's now going to use a heroic exit to call the fight off. Dota 2, though, wants to keep up the chase. The Just Punch just barely gets him out to safety as, all right, Envy finds some good damage onto Habibi, forcing the flash. Tower's taken in top as neither top laner was able to join that fight. Camper going to find another slam, forcing a flash out of Bread, but he does lose his entire tower, and his team is going to lose third dragon. The Ash era before the fight to get the flash off of Hister was nice, but when they're not able to get that kill, the Ash arrow being on cooldown does hurt their composition a lot. It was so difficult for them to try to get in through the Jace poke, through the Lux holding that banana brush with the Karma. And then they just had to full send it with Jason, and a flash out from Evan meant that they weren't going to be able to find any good targets. No camper flank meant that Lux was going to be able to rotate through spells all throughout the fight. And now, even though the gold lead is like a modest 3K, it is 3 dragons. So in 4 minutes, the side of the Shaitans do need to show up to try to prevent that soul. And if Habibi is not strong enough on this Ash to take down some of these tanks, it can not, it's not going to be a fun fight. You'd also like to see if Camper can get involved on the Gragas to try to find those priority targets. He was locked away in top lane with Bread, and I will commend Camper for doing well in this matchup for the most part. He did lose his tower, but I mean, Garen's always pushing in waves, has the pressure of the Ignite Summoner. But Camper has stayed pretty even throughout the course of the game. We've seen Bread completely stampede a lot of his lanes. And this time he has still got a 0 in the kill department 20 minutes into the game. So I'll call that a somewhat success in the top side. Where it is not a success is in the bot side, where they wanted to play Ashe Seraphine into what they knew was going to be a double range bot lane from Evan and Hister. And it did not go great, but now Bread is going to be found out on a flank. They're going to send it in onto the Garen. Bread is going to be knocked around by the Cyclone, but there's not enough damage. The Encore and the Choke is massive onto 2. As Hoptech's in on the flank. A 3-man taunt to set it up, and here comes the damage from Jason. Evan is going to be able to get out of here as Camper's chasing it onto Dota 2. And he's not going to find his mark, but they will find the mark onto Evan. So they find Bread looking for a cheeky flank, and they instantly punish it. Now Jason trying to fight off the Mundo as well. They have the slows, they have the speed, but they definitely do not have the damage. Dead Man's Plate will help Dota 2 get out of there. It is a lot of good gold, but now Envy just flashing in onto the mid lane. Habibi Poppy is going to be killed off. Galio gets expended for naught, as now Hoptech needs to retreat with a TP being used in mid by Evan. Not a big fan of using the heroic entrance there, as, you know, if Habibi dies here, you'll live with it. You have that very important dragon fight in 90 seconds that you need to make sure all your cooldowns are up for. So I don't think we should have used any flashes of hope or any ultis of hope there, but we'll see how much that impacts the upcoming soul fight. Of course, the gold onto Envy is very nice. He's going to work his way up towards that man immune, get that 2-item spike on the Jace. And I'll give credit there, right? Like, Envy has played the fights correctly thus far. Despite being down, he's been creating pressure in sides and holding the zones that he needs to with his poke. So that poke will get very scary at the man immune mark. And while there are less good targets in the Gragas and the Wukong, they are not exactly tanks with the build Camper has gone for. So those shock blasts will hurt anyone they hit. The Lux Singularity will hurt anyone they hit as they take off Jason's shields there. And now it's time to just get your vision, get your grounds over this dragon. But that does mean that Envy is just pushing away in top side. And the 5-man squad, the Shaitans, are trying to force the issue in mid. Bread going to be able to walk up and clear the wave. He's now taunted up, not able to find the Justice Punch. And the heals from the Seraphine are helping the Shaitans as they're able to get into the river. They need to sack the stuff up in top to just try to prevent the soul. Would like to see Untitled maybe just say, hey, it's one dragon. We can live without it. But no, Envy's going to recall. And TP. The poke comp now needs to be the one to enter as the dragon's already being started. Dota 2 forcing his way through with the briefcase. Jason may be looking for his angle as the dragon is down to half HP. They aren't really hitting it all too much as the light binding across the team only hits onto Jason as they're going to try to engage onto Hoptech. Envy forcing the Galio out of the fight. Does have the heroic entrance, but it's canceled. And the Jace is just going to molly-wop the Galio. Now it's an uneven fight. Dota 2, can he get the smite steal? No. This time it's going to go over to the Wukong, but now Brett is on the back line. He's spinning across the bot lane, but Schmiedlock's able to survive, and now Evan able to flash in, but not able to find the kill. It's 2 going the way of the Shaitans before they finally lose Camper. An even fight, but it is Envy creating the difference on the sides, even if he dies in the end. Removes the Galio from the equation. No heroic entrance, even if the shields are there. But this time, Dota 2 not able to get the steal, not able to get the soul. And we're pretty much in a fairly even game state. Except Bread could be caught out in mid. He's got no flash. And with the Rangers' focus, Habibi Poppy able to find the kill. The Ashe could certainly become an issue. And without the Garen with Wukong Ashe around the top side, I think it would be a bit foolish to go for this Baron. I mean, the Shaitans have not even been able to collect a tower this game thus far. Their comp very focused on the 5v5. But, I mean, they're going to look at it now, and it is going to be started up. Seraphine does help them out quite a bit here in this situation with the double W. But Dota 2 is very tanky. They're going to try to look for a turn here. Easiest now might be caught here by the Ashe arrow. That karma is gone, as now Dota 2 is being aggressed on by Jason. The level lead isn't going to mean much when there's 5 members of the enemy team after you. Envy finds a good shock blast on the flank, but I think it was a good job by the Shaitans. Just use that Baron as a bit of bait. Find themselves a nice pick onto the Hister. And Evan now needs to recall as he's in a very odd position. Another shock blast almost does in Schmiedlock. On the backside, final spark from a angle that I don't think they expected. That gives away Evan's position. And I don't think he minds too much pulling the team to him. He's going to burn TP. So they'll see him right there, flying across the rift. So I do like how the Shaitans have been trying to get back into this game. They get the pig on the bread. They know Hister and Evan don't have flashes, so if they can maybe just get a good fight around the Baron where they're able to find those two members. But I mean, even still, it is a slight lead to the side of Untitled, and a lot of that gold is on the Mundo. He's able to get to his third item, and against a composition like the Shaitans, a Fed Mundo can actually be a pretty big problem. Even if you think you can cut him out with the Ash with the Seraphine, you're not really going to kill him. And Envy, despite being put down in a very big hole early, because he's been able to go kind of unmatched in a lot of the side lanes, has been able to work up his gold and get pretty ahead of the enemy number. Hoptech having this more utility pick that has to play for the team. He is not chovying, so he is down a full item. Can't do both, unfortunately, unlike the Chovester. So we'll see how impactful that third item for the Galio will be. But for now, Envy is definitely a threat and has been a threat throughout all this year. The first time these teams played, Untitled was able to get the 2-0 victory. But while Envy got the better of Hoptech in game number 1, game number 2 was a pretty disaster class in the mid lane from Envy, playing into what is apparently a bad matchup, or playing when it's apparently a good matchup and getting absolutely mollywopped by a Talia. So they banned it in phase number 1. But we do have the Dragon spawning in 50. Soul would be massive for the side of Untitled, given that the damage profile on the side of the Shaitans is not all too great. So if you can heal all through that, the Soul is basically a game ender. Dota and Hister are going to move through to grab some vision throughout the river here. Still no flash on Evan the Bank just for a little bit longer. Easy Hister will have his back up. And Dota 2 with the power of the Karma is just going straight in. Heal has to be expended by Schmid as Habibi's trying to play it out. But oh my lord, the damage from the poke as he tries to go aggressive. And now, even with the Seraphine heals, Habibi Poppy is down way too low. And Hoptech is trying to find an angle onto Evan, but I mean, he's got no teammates around him. Bread is just working on locking Camper in the sides, but he's getting a cast back, and Camper actually finds a solo kill. Now he can TP to the play, but he will not have the ulti, and his bot lane is very, very low. Another light binding doesn't connect. Hoptech without the ulti is pushing away in mid. They're going to TP, and Schmiedlock takes so much damage. The Ash Arrow hits onto Hister, and Jason is going to use that as his angle to go in onto Evan. The Encore is going to find 3, but it's Evan forced out of the fight by the Wukong. Dota 2 soaking up on the front side. He needs to take that shirt off, put the dosage in, but it's Jason finding the solo kill with the help of the arrow, as Easy Hister's now stuck in the pit, and the Shaitans are looking to pull this one out. The Mundo, though, is on the warpath. He's going to get a flash out of Schmiedlock, but the Dragon, it's smited, and it's missed by Jason. And that is Ocean Soul to the side of Untitled. That was smited down to like 300, 100. It's a miss by Jason trying to time it up with the Wukong Q burst. That does at least mean Dota 2 is dead, and they're going to look for Baron. As Envy, I don't think he's too scared of the Gargoyle at this point. And so it's Soul for Baron. It wasn't certainly a fight win for the Shaitans. As all things considered, we are pretty even here. 30 minutes into the game. You saw the Ash Arrow onto Easy Hister, and Jason saying, hey, that's my angle to go in, but not even onto the Karma that got hit. I am sending it onto this Lux. And Evan gets completely forced out of the fight. Jason having a great game here on the Wukong. But it has been 2 dragons that Untitled have been able to steal away. That Jason has had, the ability to Q smite on Wukong to secure it. He's missed 2 of them, and that's why this Ocean Soul is now in the hands of Untitled, and it's going to make this game fairly difficult. Hoptech doesn't find a face checking. Envy did have his entire team behind him pretty much. But he's actually going to loop around. The arrow hits onto Envy, and all the threat of the side lane is going to vanish because there is much more than one member down there. You also want to shout out Camper, of course, finding a solo kill from Bread, who was, I think, very content with his team just taking the 4v4. As, I mean, does just get to keep on wailing at these towers even against Camper's Baron buff. As Habibi takes a big chunk just from the spark. So he's going to need some time to heal that back up. We almost have an armor pen item on Habibi to try to help with the Mundo. And does have the Encore now coming on down, but the Mundo has the canister. Big money Mundo is more than capable of soaking up the CC. But right now, the Shaitans just ahead by a sliver. I mean, if this Baron doesn't get too much more done, definitely like the Ocean Soul more for Untitled. We're going to see Jason move up to try to get aggressive as Bread is playing to spin. And, I mean, Camper has the Baron minions at his side. You really like how Camper's played this game? You know, he's been under constant pressure from the Garen, found that important solo kill, but now he is going to be maybe the one put under fire. They're trying to secure the tower, and they do. And Mundo is actually going to find some good damage, but I mean, Jason's around on the flank. He's going to send it onto Hister, and now Galio over the top. They find a 3-man with the Galio, and the Encore means that Untitled is exiting stage right. They lose 3 in the top lane. And the Shaitans are all powered up for the push. Look at the Moonstone healing up the squad. Dota 2 was sticking around trying to get some cheeky damage off, but he is the one that gets punished. Top Tech taking a lot of damage from Evan. The Ocean Soul did not do enough to help Bread and Dota survive in that one, and now they are dead for 25 more seconds. Hoptech has TP. He's going to show himself out. It's going to be a death push here for SRS. Flash in from Camper to blow up the Lux and blow up any chance of retaliation. Envy gets a massive shield from Hister as he finds a shutdown, but his towers are under duress. He's going to try to go and he's going to try to chunk out the Ashe, but Habibi stands strong, and the Shaitans take game number 1. That was an absolute banger of a game. That was that was what the LCK imagines League to be. You know, everyone's just farming out in their lanes, get very little action, but then you get those big fights over the objectives games, even for like 30 minutes. And then up top side, Jason and Hoptech find their angle with the ultis, and they're able to take a fight where Evan was nowhere to be seen. And so, without the damage of the Lux, it was not looking all too great for Untitled as they go down 1-0. All right, everyone. Game number 2 now here for the side of Untitled, trying to figure out what went wrong. And of course, it is not the Mage bot. They first pick up the Hui after the Brand and Mel were taken out. The Shaitans had a pseudo response in game number 1 where they were willing to play the Ashe Seraphine. but not sure what they would want to pull out against another oppressive mage lane. Top tech gonna put the priority on the Rise. Of course, one of those primo mid laners, but we have a lot of the other strong mid laners up as well. In the Azir, in the Orianna. Talia not banned away in this game. But for NV, he tends to just kind of like Syndra in these matchups. The Shinzao takeaway as well for Jason here. I think something like, you know, if you want to play Orianna as a hen, could be nice here for Untitled as a mid jungle. Could also, of course, try to steer your way towards more AP jungler and then play like Yone or Tristana mid or something along those lines. But instead, they're going to grab the Trundle for Dota 2 and not wait till phase number 2 where the Shaitans can pinch down onto Bread. He is going with his Urgot in this elimination game. And curious to see if Camper will just pick something into it now. Camper has been a pretty versatile player throughout this split, but does just tend to be tanks. There are some tanks that maybe like playing into Urgot more, but he will wait on showing them, as they're instead going to get the Leona for easy hister. Yeah, I think the Cannon ban phase 1 was definitely setting up for this Urgot on Untitled. We do see the Shaitans just take away Orianna. I expect another Syndra ban towards the mid lane. Don't think there's too much you can do to pinch down onto Easy Hister and the kind of like supports he's willing to play alongside the Hui. You see Malphite getting banned away, which definitely protects their Hui and the likely other backliner they're going to have for him down in the bot lane. As if Malphite can erase those guys, then his armor stacking is just going to be unchecked. So I do like the ban there onto Camper. And yeah, Ori Syndra, the two bans from the Shaitans. As they're probably going to want to pick up, I mean, both bot and top know what they're facing into for the Shaitans. So I think you can maybe just go Camper here. They do ban away the Gnar. Poppy, another pick that could be okay here. But no, Ziggs is going to be the option for Habibi. Does not have a game on it yet or on any mage whatsoever. They have been willing to match fire with fire down on this bot side. They're playing poke, they're playing aggressive lanes into Evan and Hister. It does mean they are very magic damage focused. At least right now. So, you know, maybe not the best opportunity for a tank top. You know, your team's looking at a lot of magic damage. You got Trundle as well. So, it'll be getting dicey for what the Shaitans want to pick top. Will be Nautilus for easy hister. Does have good CC to set up the Hui to hit all his skill shots. And also just make sure that the Leona doesn't get too much value. Ori will be the final pick here for Envy. And a Vayne insta-lock from Camper. I mean, I would expect it to be Camper. We could be playing Rise top, I suppose. And Vayne could be going bot. That is something. Yeah, I mean, we saw in LCS the big dokes very willing to play these aggressive top laners because you have the Roll Quest TP. You can play things like Vayne, like Varus, like Aurelia. Vayne into Urgot is probably good. I can't imagine it being bad, but is it good enough is going to be the question. Camper, I mean, he is a former AD carry player. That is his basically main role. So I am not surprised that he is one of the folks willing to bring out the ranged tops here. And it does provide them with the answer that I was searching for, which was some AD damage here in this composition. Does make it so that, you know, the front line can't really blow their way in, but hey, against Trundle, that front line probably wasn't going to do too much anyway. So a lot of winning lanes for Shaitans in theory, but as the game wears on, they are pretty short ranged aside from the Ziggs. The Ziggs and Hui just kind of going to be dueling over these objectives. And then if either team really finds an angle, they can go in off it. Untitled does have more ability to pull the trigger off of like pillars and Ahri ult